Reedman. I'm 45 years old. I've had Crohn's now since I was 20 years old, so just about 25 years. I've taken numerous prescription medications over the years. Actually, I've been taking prescription medications the entire 25 years that I've had the disease, mostly steroids, but I've tried different pills along the way. I've had the misfortune. Well, I've had 3 operations with 4 resections that have pieces of bowel removed, diseased pieces of bowel, and it's never really gone away. It's always kind of been there. I've tried to control it with diet. I've tried to control it with medication, and it's never really worked. Now there's numerous medications still available to me that have quite devastating side effects, in my opinion. And they're very expensive drugs. Now, I've had the misfortune of having a family member, my mother, that had a very similar disease in ulcerative colitis, that took a lot of the same treatments and took a lot of the same medications. And she recently passed away from liver cancer. So when that occurred, I became quite adamant that I didn't want to take any more prescription medications if I didn't have to try and control this disease. I began to introduce medical marijuana. Actually, it wasn't so much medical marijuana as I did it more recreationally, but I found that I liked what it did to my insides when I was having a rough day or when my Crohn's was acting up, because it has so many different benefits to help treat the disease. Getting the diagnosis that I was having a flare, it did flare up, and it ended up being an ulcer, and a very painful ulcer. So I started making the tea, and after about a week of the tea, the ulcer went away and hasn't come back. Now, in 25 years of battling this disease, I've never had a flare calm down without having to take prednisone. Prednisone is a savior, but a huge demon, because it fixes what's going on at the time, but the effects that it has on the rest of your body over a long term it creates its own set of challenges along with the disease. I was recently in September of last year diagnosed with glaucoma in my right eye, and my doctor flat out told me that that's probably from all of the steroid use. So roughly 2.5 years ago, I became very adamant to not take any more pills, and in the process of doing so, I became licensed for medical marijuana 2 years ago. It helps with muscle spasms. It helps untangle the knots in my guts. It increases my appetite when there's a lot of times when I know it's going to hurt. When a year and a half ago, I came to the point where I thought that I was winning my battle of not taking prescriptions and steroids, and it became very evident that I wasn't. I was down about 40 pounds and finally gave in and went and got the steroids from the Emerge. And after taking them for a week and a half, which traditionally after a couple of days they kick in, and it's been something that's always worked for 25 years, and it has many, many downfalls to it, but it's been the only thing that's been able to bring things back to the way they should be. So after taking the steroids for a week and a half, I was still losing weight, and I went to the hospital and they checked me in what my doctor described as skeletal state. And after spending 9 days in the hospital, I lost 9 more pounds and came home and was still unable to eat. And that was when the medical marijuana essentially saved my life. When I came home from the hospital, I was a skeleton, skin and bones. I had to stay in bed because the first day home, 2 trips up and down the stairs, and that was all the energy that I had. I stayed in bed for, like I said, roughly 3 weeks, and I couldn't take anything orally for pain, and I was in a lot of pain. And that was when I began vaporizing marijuana, and it took away the pain. It untangled the knots in my stomach. It allowed me to have an appetite and to eat something. And a lot of people count calories. I was counting in the other direction just to try and survive. Crohn's is actually fueled on stress. How you deal with stress is very relative to how your body, if you internalize your stress, my stress manifests physically. And I've learned, my life has actually gotten considerably more stressful. I haven't worked in 2 years, so there's financial stress. I have a 3-year-old little monster who's autistic that keeps me going, and he wears me out to the point where I can't look after him on my own a lot of the time because I don't have the fatigue. I don't have the stamina. I get fatigued very easily, and it's difficult to keep up to him. By the same token, it's very rewarding watching him learn, and because he was classified as nonverbal, and now he talks up a storm. Everybody joked that sooner or later we would be saying that we didn't want him. We wanted him to stop talking because he wouldn't stop talking. But I'm very happy. I'm very happy where I'm at. I'm very diligent. Anybody that's ever met me would swear to the fact that I can be as stubborn as they come, and I'm adamant that I'm going to. I've taken numerous different methods. The main method that I've taken, actually, I had a recent colonoscopy to check the state of my disease in September of last year, and unbeknownst to me, I was in a flare. The only reason I know this for certain is I woke up during the procedure and saw it on the screen with my own eyes. Sure enough, a week later, I'm noticing the symptoms after the fact. So I actually, on the recommendation of my significant other, Andrea, I changed to making marijuana tea. Actually, I make a marijuana chai tea. I was counting calories to try and make sure that I was maintaining the weight that I was at because I couldn't really afford to lose anymore. When I was in the hospital, I actually had to have what's called a sub-Q intravenous, and it's sub-Q being subcutaneous fat, and I didn't have any on my body to put it in. So I was about as skinny as I could get. Now I was able to, I vaporized the marijuana, and I counted my calories, and I was able to get back up, and I was back up to my normal weight by probably September, about a month and a half. And then I actually went back to school, to Loyalist, for their culinary program, and that was a full-year program. In January of the course, I was off prednisone for about 4 weeks. And the flare came back up again, and I lost 19 pounds in about a 2.5 week span. And I thought I was in danger of dropping out of the course because it's a very practical, hands-on course. And I did manage to make it through that and finished on the Dean's List. And since then, I've been trying to build back my strength, maintain my weight, and I've been trying not to take steroids now with the recent flare-up that I've had. And is the first time in 25 years that I haven't had to take steroids for it because I was able to calm it using my medical tea. I'm adamant that I'm going to handle this disease on my own. I'm not going to take any more medications. I may be a little bit late to try and follow this philosophy because I've followed the standard medical philosophy for 25 years now, which has resulted in me losing 4 pieces of one of my major organs and consumed copious amounts of prescription drugs that are doing who knows what to my insides. So I'm going to try and take a more natural approach to how I live and how I treat my body and see how it goes. The medical marijuana, it helped with so many different ways, so many different things that were going on with all of the prescription drugs. They had the prednisone has many side effects from it, sore joints, insomnia, and irritability. There's very much roid rage with prednisone. And mood swings, just incredible. I wasn't even the same person. Okay, to make my medical tea, I use a double boiler, and normally I make about enough for that I'm going to use in that serving, and sometimes I'll make a little more, but I use about a half a cup of cream, 10% lactose-free cream, and I put it in the pan and bring it up to so that it's warm but not too hot, and I chop up about 2 to 2.5 grams of wheat and put it in there. And I let it simmer for usually a good half an hour. The longer you can let it simmer, the better. The fat and the cream and the butter extract the THC. And you let it simmer for half an hour, or as long as you can. And once you're done, you can strain it through, strain mine through a sieve. And you can basically make the final tea any way you like. I make mine with ginger and cinnamon and some hot chocolate. And yeah, if you have any left over, you can put it back in the fridge just like cream, and it'll keep for a few days. I've been able to keep it in check with this, and I haven't taken any steroids, and I'm actually gaining weight, which I normally need steroids to gain any kind of weight. Process itself is fairly simple. There's forms to fill out. It's a long process. It takes a lot of time for the forms to be processed, and the system itself, I think the government would like to think that it doesn't exist, but you call they're of very little assistance to you. They don't provide much assistance. They essentially, your doctor has given them the say-so that it would be a benefit to you to be able to use marijuana to try and control the disease that you have. Once you've been approved for your medical license, and you can actually, there's two parts to the license. You have the license to possess, and you have the license to grow it yourself. If you choose not to grow it yourself, you can actually purchase it from the government. As far as once you get established, it's much like a driver's license. It's just there. It's there if you need it. You don't have don't have to check in with anybody, and there's no real, I'm assuming there's a database or something, but I've never had anybody, the OPP or anything, come check on me. A lot of people need to educate themselves on the cannabis plant itself, because there's so many benefits from it, and I don't know of, other than the fact that it's illegal, and that's a monster that the government's created itself. I don't know why other people like me that suffer from the same kind of thing shouldn't be able to have access to it and grow their own. $5 plus tax, so $5.75 a gram. And like I said, it's one strain. It's not a powerful strain. It's what I've been using since I've had it. I've grown it, and it does. That's the thing about cannabis. It comes in so many different strains that you can. I've read one, and I would actually be interested to try it. One that has no cerebral effect at all. It's strictly for the muscle relaxant effect of it, which is what I'm after. I don't need a cerebral effect. I have a 3-year-old little boy that counts on me every day. I can't be locked to the couch. So and it allows me. It gives me energy. It gets me eating. It helps me to get through the day. It helps me to deal with this disease. Not that I'm embarrassed for my son to see me medicating, either using the vaporizer or smoking, but he never has. He's never seen any of my medicine. He's never watched me medicate, and that's the beauty of being able to. The twofold in the tea is it's going directly, and it's helping me exactly what I needed to do. And I'm just drinking from a cup. There's nothing unnatural about that. I don't understand why it should be decriminalized, in my opinion, because it doesn't affect me, because I legally can do it because I have the license from the government. But there's so many people out there that could get the benefit from it, same as I am, and I don't understand from Prohibition 80 some odd years ago why it's still. For lack of a better comparison, if you were to compare it to alcohol, because they were both prohibited at one point, alcohol does far more damage than marijuana ever thought of doing. And I can't think of any benefits. I can't honestly think of any benefits to alcohol when there's so many that there's so many different methods and there's so many different things that you can do, the treatments for marijuana. I don't understand why anybody should have to jump through so many hoops to get something that grows in the ground. I don't know how anybody can legislate are my tomatoes next.
The gift from the earth, and what's from the earth is of the greatest worth. So before you knock it, try it first. For you see, it's a blessing and it's not a curse.